Let me tell you about the night my life changed forever. The night when I thought I was going to die. The night I lost my sanity. And the night one of my best friends vanished without a trace. This is not a campfire story. What I'm about to tell you is something I have never spoken aloud to a single person. Not my parents. Not my doctor. Not anyone. Until now. It was a warm spring night. I was 13 years old. My parents had gone on holiday for the weekend, leaving me home alone. I invited my two best friends, David and Arnold, over to keep me company. We were in my bedroom, listening to music, not a care in the world. None of us could have imagined what was coming. Arnold reached out and turned down the music. "Hey," he said, "why don't we tell some scary stories? I'm in the mood for a scare." David agreed right away. "Sounds like a good idea. Who's going first?" I hesitated. I had a story. But something in the back of my mind told me to keep it to myself. I should have listened to that voice. I told them a story I'd heard once. Something that had always unsettled me. Many years ago, there was a man who lived way out in the countryside with his 7-year-old son. His wife had died giving birth to the boy. They had no neighbors for miles. Not even a telephone line. One day, the father came home from work to find his house ablaze. His first thought, his only thought, was his son. He rushed inside, calling the boy's name. He heard a voice. His son. Trapped in the bedroom. He ran to the bedroom door and tried to open it. It wouldn't budge. A fallen beam had blocked it from the inside. He banged and banged with everything he had. He threw his shoulder against it again and again. But it held firm. And all the while, he could hear his son screaming. Crying. Begging for help. He shouted in rage. He wailed in despair. The only things in the world that existed were that door. And the voice of his child on the other side of it. His son burned to death in that room. And the father, he never left. He stayed there until the very end, still pounding on the door, still screaming his son's name, until the smoke filled his lungs and the flames took him too. He died trying to open a door he could never open. And that's when I made the biggest mistake of my life. I told them the rest. Ever since that night, I said, the father's ghost has never stopped trying to save his son. He's still trying to open that door. And if you call out to him, if you scream like the boy and tell him everything is burning, his ghost will hear you. And he will come to your door. Arnold's eyes lit up. David smiled. I felt my stomach drop. Hey! Arnold said. We should do it right now. Before I could stop him, before I could say a single word. He put on a trembling voice, a child's voice, and screamed, Daddy! Daddy! Help me! The flames are all around me. I'm scared. He burst out laughing. I didn't crack a smile. Then he screamed again. Louder. I'm burning, Daddy. I'm burning. Help. Stop it, Arnold. I shouted. It's not funny. But he kept going. Daddy. Please help me. The fire is burning me alive. And then, it stopped. Not because Arnold stopped. Because something else started. Sound effect, single heavy knock. A loud knock on the bedroom door. Arnold froze mid-scream. We all froze. Total silence. We looked at each other. No one breathed. Then. Boom. 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 We almost jumped out of our skin. Boom. 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 It wasn't knocking anymore. It was pounding. And then we heard it. A scream. Not a human scream. Not quite. It was like a dying animal. Hollow and broken and ancient. It was filled with a grief so immense it didn't seem like it could fit inside one sound. I still hear it now. The banging continued. The screaming continued. Relentless. Getting louder. Getting closer. Arnold grabbed a chair and stood with it raised, ready to swing at whatever came through. I hid behind the wardrobe, as if a piece of furniture could protect me from what was on the other side of that door. David pressed himself into the corner, tears pouring down his face. "No, no, no," he cried. "What is this? I'm scared." And the moment he said those words, the screaming outside grew louder. The banging intensified. I thought the door was about to fly off its hinges. "I can't take it anymore," David sobbed. "I've got to get out of here." Before I could say anything, he ran to the window and threw it open. "No!" I screamed. "Don't!" But he jumped. Silence. Then, his voice from below. "Eh!" I fell. "My back. Eh!" "I'm hurt." I ran to the window and looked down. He was lying on the concrete, screaming in pain. And behind me, the banging on the door kept going. We were too scared to leave the room to help him. And then I smelled it. I hadn't noticed it at first. But now it was everywhere. Suffocating. The stench of burning flesh. Arnold stood completely motionless in the middle of the room, his eyes glazed, staring at the door like he was in a trance. Then he doubled over, and vomited on the carpet. And then so did I. The banging. The screaming. David's howls from outside. The stench. The vomit. It was an assault on every single sense. A nightmare with no exit. I had one last idea. David screaming outside, maybe it was calling to the thing at the door. I closed the window. We sat on the floor. Hands over our ears. Eyes shut. Shaking. And slowly. Slowly. The screaming faded. The smell disappeared. The banging grew weaker. And weaker. Until. Silence. Arnold looked at me and asked in a barely audible voice, "What do we do now?" "Maybe call the police," I said. "Or an ambulance for David." The phone was downstairs. Arnold stood up slowly. He walked to the door. He gripped the handle. He pushed it open just a crack, and peeked into the hallway. Empty. He turned back to me with a smirk. Almost laughing. "It's crazy," he said. "The door was open the whole time. This stupid ghost." He never finished that sentence. In a flash, a hand shot around the door. It grabbed Arnold by the throat. He didn't scream. He just stood there. Paralyzed. Eyes wide. The arm was blackened. Charred. Like something pulled from a fire. The smell of burning flesh came back, immediate and overwhelming. Before I could move, before I could think. Arnold was gone. Dragged through the doorway at an impossible speed. The door slammed shut. I screamed his name. Again and again. No response. Nobody ever saw Arnold again. My parents took me to a psychiatrist after that night. I never told her what happened. I never told anyone. They wouldn't have believed me. David spent a month in hospital. He broke his back in the fall. He never spoke about that night either. Arnold was listed as a missing person. The case was never solved. As far as anyone knows, he simply vanished. Even today, I can't open a door without hesitating. My hand reaches for the handle. And something inside me freezes. Because I never know what might be on the other side. And neither do you. If you're watching this late at night, in a room with a closed door behind you, don't call out. Don't pretend to be the boy. Don't test the story. Some legends aren't legends. Some doors shouldn't be opened. And some ghosts never stop knocking.